For most Americans, Memorial Day has come to represent the weekend that kicks off the summer season. This year, let's restore the history of this American holiday by taking time to remember the real reason we have this 3-day weekend: to honor all of those who have died fighting in service of the United States during peace and war. And this really hits me, right? I'm a millennial. So the only September 11th and the war on terror, that has really shaped my thinking. And so I have to ask, what does it mean to die fighting in the service of the United States? Right? As I was saying, this is a particularly good question in a period of American history when Congress, the only branch of government that is delegated the power to declare war, so you can check that out in the Constitution, Article 1, Section 8, Congress has not made a declaration of war since 1942 when it authorized World War II. So that means the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the campaigns in Afghanistan and Iraq, and all of our other military engagements since then were never authorized by a declaration of war from Congress, making them illegal and unconstitutional wars. Now, we can debate whether we should or should not have gotten engaged, right? Perhaps Congress should have. Why haven't they been? And this is certainly, right, not to say that those men and women died in vain, right? Because I believe what those men and women put those uniforms to fight and die for was something much different than whatever those guys down there in Washington are doing. And really, to answer this question, to articulate it, we need to go back to the origins of this holiday that we're celebrating here, Memorial Day. The Civil War, right? That's where Memorial Day comes from. It was actually called Decoration Day. The Civil War was the deadliest battle in American history. It was responsible for more than 620,000 deaths, or about 2% of the population at the time. So if you were to scale that up to our population today, 340 or 50 million, that's the equivalent to about 6.6 million people. That's a lot of death. And so it touched all communities across the nation. And the commander-in-chief of the Grand Army Republic, John A. Logan, designated May 30th as the annual day of remembrance to honor the graves of the more than 360,000 Union troops. Logan didn't designate the day to remember all of these deaths. Remember, there was 620,000. It was for the Union deaths, because those are the men who were fighting with the explicit mission of expanding the promise of the Declaration of Independence by preventing the expansion of slavery into the Western territories. And I don't go into it in this article, though I do talk a little bit about Abraham Lincoln, who was, of course, president at the time of the Civil War. But in the years leading up to the Civil War, you can really see this tension building as the country expands across the continent. There's the Northwest Ordinance. There's a couple other bills going back and forth about whether slavery will or will not be allowed in there. So modern popular history, though, has muddied our understanding of the Civil War. And most often I hear people say, well, it was about states' rights. And again, I'm guilty of this. I've said this. It's kind of in the culture, right? They say it's more about state rights than it was about slavery. But this is wrong. It's wrong on two levels. First of all, constitutionally speaking, there are no such thing as states' rights. The Constitution protects individual rights that each person has been endowed by their creator with. And what the Constitution does is it delegates some of the responsibility to protecting those individual rights to the states, right? The federal government has certain powers and the states have certain powers. You can read the Constitution and it is very specific as to what those are. We'll do that on another live stream. But the second reason why this notion of states' rights rather than slavery being the reason for the Civil War is that Abraham Lincoln became president based on his conviction against the expansion of slavery. You can look it up. There was a series of debates with Stephen A. Douglas, who supported the expansion of slavery. So you can check that out. I linked a video that gives you the history there. But that's why he became president, because he was against the expansion of slavery. Maybe not explicitly against the institution of slavery itself. It wasn't a politically tenable position to have, but he was against its expansion. And we can have that discussion at a later debate about the history and legacy of Lincoln. But at the 1871 celebration of the Memorial Day at Arlington National Cemetery, Frederick Douglass, right, this guy right here, Frederick Douglass said, "We must never forget that victory to rebellion meant death to the Republic." Right? So if the South won, the United States and the promise contained in that Constitution would be no more. So we must never forget the loyal soldiers who rest beneath this sod, flung themselves between the nation and the nation's destroyers. And so what I'm proposing is that on this Memorial Day, and really throughout this weekend, let us remember why this nation is worth fighting and dying for. Let us remember the fundamental principles and values that have served as the single most liberalizing force in all of human history, that within 2 generations of their conception defeated an institution as old as the human race itself, slavery. So let us remember the many men and women who have made the ultimate sacrifice to protect the inalienable rights given to men by their Creator. On this Memorial Day, let us remember. And so I hope that this live stream can serve as, helping you remember, bringing back that history as we just did a little bit there, though certainly not a complete history. Spend 10 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour. Check out the history for yourself. Read about it.
Thanks for checking out this clip of Teaching Liberty Live. Help us beat the algorithm by sharing it on your social media platforms and with your friends. Also, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, tap that notification bell so you don't miss any of my videos. Plus, I go live every Saturday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, breaking down the big headlines and trending topics of the week. And let's make sure we stay directly connected, so head over to teachingliberty.org and sign up for my mailing list. Now, go watch more of my videos and share them with your friends. Did I mention that?
Come on.